This is one of those vehicles where you get what you pay for, and I mean that in the most logical, sincere, straightforward way. There are some elements here that show why it is cheap or cheaper than the rivals, but it also is very good value. This is the 2025 GWM Cannon XSR. It's the top spec model, the most expensive model, and it is focused on off-roading. Prices start from just $51,990 drive away, which is excellent value compared to most of the rivals. I've seen on the website that they're actually offering it from $49,990 if you're an ABN holder. So that's 50 grand drive away for a top spec dual cab ute. But yeah, there are some elements here that show the kind of cost cutting, or where you're just getting what you pay for. For example, this snorkel comes standard on the XSR. And you might think, well, that's going to increase the water wading, crossing, rivers and so on capability. And it does. The starting point though is very low. The Cannon in standard form offers a water wading depth of just 500 millimeters. That's way lower than pretty much all of the mainstream rivals. With the snorkel, it jumps up to 700 millimeters. And that's pretty standard. That's not anything impressive at all. Like a standard LSU D-Max offers a wading depth of 800 millimeters. So straight away you think, well, what's the point of the snorkel if it's only increasing it to where a kind of average ute sits? Some other things in the tray area. Now the Cannon is a pretty large ute in its segment if you look at the dimensions, but the tray area, or the bed, or whatever you want to call it, is measuring 1520 by 1520. So it's completely square. That's not very big compared to a lot of the rivals. The Triton and the D-Max offer more space in both directions. By the way, throughout this video, I'm going to mention the Triton and the D-Max because I think they're the kind of nearest competitor. They're priced a little bit higher, but they're not as priced as high as a Ranger or a Hilux. And they're probably the models that I'd be looking at if I was considering something like this. You can step down into a GLX-R Triton for about 56,000, so about 4 grand more, 5 grand more by the time you add on-road costs and all that. You could probably work a bit of a deal with a dealer to get it close to this, I reckon. I mean, the Navara as well should be there, but my brain is only so big or so small that I can only contain enough information. But yeah, a lot of this would be transferable to the Navara. That's a very good value ute for a mainstream brand. Other areas, this offers 228 millimeters of ground clearance, which is actually less than the second from the top Vanta variant that offers over 230. It's only small, but these little figures add up. And yeah, 228 is not that impressive for the class. It's not bad, but standard D-Max again is about 240 millimeters. So you've just got to, it looks like it will be great off-road, and I know they are, but you kind of, if you're getting it from a mainstream brand, I think they'll just amp it up a little bit more for an off-road spec model. Like the suspension is pretty much standard across the board. It doesn't have any sort of adaptive dampers or anything like that, and you wouldn't expect that for the price. But it does come with these very good Cooper all-terrain tyres, AT3s, nice and chunky. We'll go for an off-road test in a minute. We'll go up the hill climb, and this does come with a front locking differential. Sorry about the wind today, it's driving me nuts actually. The XSR comes with a front differential lock, which you don't get in pretty much any rival except for a Raptor or a 70 series Land Cruiser or something like that. So that is very good, and it does help with off-road performance. Again, we'll go out and test the hill climb. I haven't been out there for a few weeks, and there's been a lot of rain lately. And I got a friend that went out there during the middle of the rain, and they said there were a few guys really ripping it up. So it might look a little bit different to the last time we tested, which is a little bit of a shame because it means it's not going to be equal match to the previous tests I've done, but there's two different lines I go up, so the other line might be okay still, and yeah, if I have to change the line, then so be it, but we'll give it a test anyway. The XSR also comes with these hardcore or heavy duty bumper bars, big chunky side steps. They do hang a little bit low. Unique rear bumper bar with the little steps in the side there, so you can jump in and out pretty easily. You've got recovery points there, damped tailgates, and then you've got the big step across the back there. I'm not sure if many people would use that. Like, it is, I'm not saying it's a bad feature, but it's just one of those things where it's very clever and creative, but just the clunkiness of getting that out just to jump in the back. You've got those steps on the corners there anyway. I don't know. If you're unloading something, that would definitely come in handy where you're just constantly going back and forth. But if you're just getting a one-off thing, you probably wouldn't bother with that. But it is better than any other rival that doesn't offer that. So you have to give it points for giving something extra. And it doesn't really sacrifice anything either. You've got the sports bar in the back as well. You've got a lot of dark grey highlights as well, or matte black, colour-coded door handles and side mirrors, and a black grille at the front. It looks pretty good. I think it is starting to age a little bit. Like it's, I don't know, it doesn't stand out in the class anymore. Not that that's a bad thing. I think some utes might look a bit too modern and too futuristic, or just downright ugly like the Kia Tasman, whereas this is just kind of blending in with the class. And then inside you get pretty much a plastic interior. This is all fake leather. It's got this contrast stitching almost. But yeah, so you're not getting the full luxury experience compared with some flagship rivals. But the interior presentation and the design is really nice. I like the little dash tray on the passenger side. The two digital screens aren't, you know, really in your face, which is great, and you still have physical buttons for some of the aircon controls, and you've got plenty of physical buttons down here for your drive modes, your locking, differential, and so on. Wireless charging pad and decent storage. So the other area where you're kind of getting what you pay for is this engine. It's a 2.4 litre turbo diesel, 135 kilowatts, 480 newton meters. Those figures are not impressive. They're among the lowest really in the class. 135 kilowatts is not that much. And this is pretty heavy as well. It weighs 2.33 tons. That's almost, you know, or yeah, almost Ranger kind of weights. But the Ranger, of course, comes with a V6 or even the 2 litre over 150 kilowatts and 500 newton meters. So yeah, you're just falling down a little bit there, but then also the fuel consumption, the official rating is 8.4. Most rivals are around 8, like the D-Max, or even less, the Triton's 7.7. So yeah, you're chewing more fuel but getting less power and torque, and that tells me that the engine is not, you know, advanced or that advanced compared with most rivals, and not very refined. And I'll start it up. It's quite noisy. It's got a bit of a rattle going on. You can hear that kind of knocking sound as well, which is typical of older diesels. Got that clattering sound, whereas a lot of the modern rivals are very smooth. They still are kind of got a vibration and that sort of noisy tone, but yeah, the rattles and the clunks and so on have been pretty much eliminated with the modern diesels. Decent passenger space though, and a pretty good driving position. I don't have any major complaints. I mean, it would be nice if the seat went just a little bit lower. Yeah, but it's providing a good view anyway. Like I can see out the front quite easily. I've got a little bit of a gap in between the mirror and the A-pillar, and the windows are quite tall, so yeah, good view all around, including out the back. This example does come with a sunroof, which is fairly unique for this class, so that is a bonus over and above a lot of the rivals, or the top spec rivals at least. But other than that, yeah, it feels kind of basic. It's a good workhorse, and it comes back to you're getting what you pay for. There's nothing in here that's sort of above the rivals, but at the same time, there's nothing bad about it. I know I'm going to get a lot of comments saying, oh, I've had one of these for 3 years, and I've had 15 Hiluxes, and this is way better, and blah, 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 which is great. I encourage people to provide real-world feedback, especially just your experience. Doesn't matter if it's good or bad, because that's better than, or sometimes better than what I can provide or any motoring journalist, because you've owned it. You've been through the service experience, even the purchasing experience. I just have this for a week, test its functionality, and then that's kind of it. I don't test any reliability or anything like that. I mean, if it breaks down, I'll let you know, but over a week, you've got pretty good odds. And then up at the back, we've got a center folding armrest, which is good, but it doesn't have cup holders, which you get on most of the rivals. Do have twin climate vents though, so you can change the direction, and then 2 USB-A ports, some storage, pockets in the backs of the seats, and some protective plastic on the door handle, so that's nice. You can fold down these seats, which is unique to this class, or fairly somewhat unique. And you've got the baby seat anchor point just there, which is what I would prefer over the loop-through system into the center. That's just seems heaps easier for me. You've got a little bit of storage behind there too, I guess, along with the jack. Space back here is okay. My hair is getting close, and that's unusual for me. I'm only 170 centimeters, so yeah, it's even getting in, like my head's getting pretty close to that, which you don't get in some of the rivals, but it is good to see grab handles, like the two grab handles, one on the pillar and one on the ceiling. And visibility is good as well. Like I can see over the side window quite easily, so the kids are unlikely to feel claustrophobic or car sick. All right, we'll go for a drive down the winding road just to see how it handles. I remember driving the first XSR that arrived in Australia, not the first production version, but like the first generation or whatever you want to call it, 2-litre version. And the front suspension for me was so soft that it bottomed out, like it actually hit the bump stops over bumps that weren't even that serious. As a preview, this does seem to be a lot better, but it's, again, not the best setup, in my opinion, compared with most of the rivals. Just before we go, the towing capability in this, at least on paper, is quite good. 3.5 ton towing capacity, brake towing capacity, GWM minus the curb weight. The curb weight is pretty heavy, it's 2,330, minus 350 kilograms. You're left with 525 kilograms for passengers and gear. That doesn't compare that well to a Triton, which has a leftover of over 700 kilograms. So yeah, again, it's the on-paper stuff does seem to look okay in some areas, but then doesn't look okay in other areas, like some of the dimensions and so on. The approach angle in this is also 27 degrees, while a lot of the rivals are about 30 degrees. So yeah, some things look good and some things look bad, but also you got to remember that some things don't matter in the real world. So I've got a feeling this is going to be excellent off-roading. So the clearances and everything don't really apply. But we'll check out those side steps. So some of the moguls that I'm climbing up, I think it's going to scrub out the side step and just, yeah, slow things down a little bit, while a rival with more clearance would be able to get through without scrubbing the side step, but then it doesn't have a front diff lock, so it might not be able to pull through. So it really depends on what environment you're focusing on or you're regularly in. So going with the XSR, you do miss out on some safety gear like lane keep assist, blind spot assist. I think I'll flash up the exact specs now, but yeah, there's about 5 safety systems that you do miss out on in the XSR compared to most of the other variants. I think all of the other variants actually. So if you are concerned about that sort of stuff, then yeah, that's something to consider. I mean, to me personally, that's great. I don't like most of the safety stuff anyway these days, so it's no harm for me. But yeah, if you are looking at this on paper and you want the safest setup, then the XSR is not the one for you. Now out on the road, I want to show you something before we fully get going. I'll just get to a straight bit. The engine is not very refined and it's noisy, but the throttle lag is almost ridiculous. So I'll just slow down here and stop. Got a bit of a straight section. So I'm going to put my foot down about 1/4 of throttle. So it doesn't matter if you don't believe me or whatever, it's not really about that. It's just the reaction of the engine and throttle, and then how it behaves after that. So I'll use my hand to show you when I'm moving my foot. I'll do it like at the same time. So I'm not sure if you heard that, but I didn't move my foot further. I just put it down 1/4 and left it there. And there's an initial delay, a big delay, and then it gives you this extra boost. So you slow take off and it goes, and it just gives you this overboost sort of weird feeling, and it pushes the vehicle a lot faster than what you'd expect. It's not very consistent, in other words. So that would drive me nuts if I was in traffic situations all the time where people are sort of flowing and moving along, and I did it the other day. I was on a bit of a hill as well, which only magnifies or amplifies the kind of annoyance, because you put your foot down a little bit to move up and it's, and then you're back on the brakes to slow it down again. There is a bit of sort of throttle hang as well. I'll try and show you that. So I'll tell you when I'll back off on the throttle. I've got about 1/4 down. I'm not sure if you heard that, but it's like, it just keeps pushing a little bit for a second afterwards. Also, going from reverse to drive is a similar situation or similar problem. So reverse, full throttle. See how long that took? And I'll do it again in drive, full throttle. Like, it just takes so long, and that would drive me absolutely nuts if I was a courier or something, jumping in and out all the time, doing a lot of stop-start driving. It's, yeah, just frustrating. They need to calibrate that so it's sharper. I mean, it doesn't have, I'm not talking about performance, I'm just talking about the actual reaction of your foot on the pedal compared to what the engine does, and then get rid of that weird overboost feeling. I'm not giving it full power, by the way. That first time, that was when I was going from drive to reverse, I was, but that first time, that was just quarter throttle. There's no reason to give me this extra boost from a quarter throttle. So what about the positives? Well, I know I'm seem like I'm just completely bagging this vehicle. I'm just trying to highlight some things to consider when you're paying less compared with some rivals. If you've already bought one of these, great. I think it is very good value, especially if you're a you know, a tradie or something like that. You just want a good dual cab ute that offers all the features and for a low price, and that's what this does. So there's no harm in that. I'm just talking to those who are considering buying a dual cab ute at the lower end of the price spectrum. In terms of the handling, this is all right. Like, there's a little bit of body lean, body roll, but it's not unacceptable. The suspension, I think they have improved it. Well, it's not bottoming out like the original one that I drove. It still is a bit soft and has this sort of bouncing effect over certain undulations and roads that have a lot of sort of, yeah, sine waves, I think they're called. And it does bounce around a little bit, but it is relatively comfortable, I guess, compared with some rivals. It will be interesting to fully load this thing up and see how it behaves as well. It might pivot the front end and lift it up a little bit more. Yeah, just be interesting to see how it drives. But all in all, it's not bad. Like, I can go around the corners here. This has got the all-terrain tires on it, remember, as well. It's got decent road holding. The steering is not too bad. It's got a mechanical feel to it. A little bit of weight as well, in a good way. Yeah, it's pleasant to drive. In terms of the performance, yeah, this doesn't go that well, I guess, compared with most of the other rivals. I'll just show you the kind of kick down. I mean, we're going downhill slightly, 40 kilometers an hour, full throttle. And that's 100, so it takes quite a while. As you can imagine, getting onto a highway or something like that, or overtaking on the highway, it's a bit of a task. Obviously, utes aren't made for performance, but I think there is a respectable level of performance that's, you know, average for a dual cab ute, and this is slower than that average kind of thing. In terms of economy, now, I know there's going to be an owner out there that's going to yell at me, but I can't get the gauge to show. It's only when I hit traction control that I can move it around. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I'm obviously doing something wrong, but why? See, now it's working fine even when I turn the traction control back on. Oh no, it's gone again. So I just don't understand. Why have this button here if you can't use it, or if you've got to be in a special mode? Like, I just don't understand. I'll put it into park as well. It doesn't show it. The only way that I can get it to, well, as far as I know, is to hit the traction control button, and then we can go across and look at the various trip information. So we've got a full tyre pressure monitor there. That's pretty good. Tyre pressures are about 40 psi, which is about average. You know, that's normal for a warm setting. I've been driving up and down the mountain. There's your average 10.1. That's since I've picked it up, and I have done performance testing already. So it's okay. Again though, like a D-Max, I've achieved mid to low 8s in the real world. So with performance testing, all the same sort of driving conditions, and it's using 8 with more power, although slightly less torque, with a bigger capacity engine. You'd expect this smaller engine with low power to be even better, if that makes sense. Anyway, it's not too bad. It's not terrible. It's just not as good as some of the rivals that are more expensive. Again, you're getting what you pay for. On country roads like this, the suspension offers a different behavior again, actually. While on, you know, bigger undulations and dips and so on, the front end just feels a little bit soft and bouncy, in my opinion. But then on roads like this with shorter and sharper bumps, it's kind of jittering and jolting about more so than many of the rivals. I guess it all comes down to where you're spending most of your time. If it's on roads like this, then yeah, some of the rivals are more comfortable. But if you're on a smooth highway all the time, then this is not going to be an issue. I must say that the cabin refinement and build quality is very good. Considering this is shaking about quite a bit. There's no rattles, there's no creaks. It's actually very good, even compared with some rivals. I've also noticed there's no dual zone climate control, not that I can sort of see anyway. You've got fan speed here, temperature control, but yeah, no passenger control. Now, every time I get into a vehicle with dual zone, I always hit sync, so it's not a problem for me. But again, if you're looking at it on paper, you know, some rivals are going to offer things and this misses out. All right, the hill climb. So it doesn't actually look that different from other tests. It doesn't look different at all really, but we'll have to go up and see. So usually I come up the left here, then go over to the middle and straight up that side, and then we'll do the right hand side there, which doesn't look like it's that badly chewed out. I mean, it's all dry now, mostly. There's a bit of water down there, but I think this hill section is actually, or it appears to be, dry. Back to the tire pressures, actually, that is probably a little bit too high. I was thinking 39 psi or 40 psi. That's probably a little bit too high. They say it's about 4 psi from cold to warm, so if you take off 4, you're left with about 36, which is probably going to be higher than what the tire... Oh no, so it actually says 35 psi. So 1 psi extra is not going to make a huge difference. As usual, to start with, I'm just going to put it in 4H, so 4-wheel drive, and then see how we go. I know that you should probably lock the diff and put it in low range for stuff like this, but I always just start at the bottom of the functions, just so I can see how the top functions actually work and how much improvement they offer. I do this with all vehicles that I test up here. But if it's your car and you're getting to somewhere on the other side of that hill and you need to get up this hill, then yeah, absolutely put it into low range. I haven't touched the, whoops, I have touched the strip traction control to get the tire gauge back up. So I'll turn that back on if I can. Actually, no, it's gone into its own mode, or turned off, as soon as I put it into 4H. Yeah, so that's 2H, and the stability of the light has disappeared. Put it into 4H and it turns off, or goes into its own mode. Snow, I don't want snow. Just 4H will be fine. Yeah, so that's the stability control's done its own thing. Let's see how we go. And just keep in mind, this is very steep. It might not look like it on camera, but it is very steep. Yeah, wow, look at that, straight up, no problem at all. In 4H. That's done very, very well. I didn't even have to try. I thought I'd be spinning the wheels a little bit. I mean, I did carry the momentum just maybe a little bit more than other utes that I've tested, maybe, but not really. Like, it did keep going. So other utes that I've tested where I've slowed down is sometimes because the wheels start spinning and the vehicle's actually slowing down, whereas that, it kept the momentum going. That's actually really good. The tires obviously help out a bit there too. So down through here, we'll see if the side step scrubs. There is a big drop. You might not be able to see it, but it does drop down very suddenly. We'll see how the rear suspension flexibility goes. So that'll be the rear wheel off the ground, but the side step did not scrape. So there we go. Even though it does offer a low-ish ground clearance compared with some rivals, it doesn't seem to, or hasn't seemed to yet, hinder the off-road capability. We'll try it out on this right-hand side in a minute, which really does put a lot of pressure diagonally on the vehicle, and it definitely the side steps are going to get close to the left-hand ledge there. But we'll go up this other side and we'll try out the diff locks and low range to see how easy we can do it. So I've got it in 4L with the front and rear diffs locked, which is awesome. Like, not many rivals, or hardly any rivals offer that, as I said. There is a camera here, but I can't seem to figure out the views. Oh, you can change it around so we can sort of watch it from the side. I'll leave it in manual mode, leave it in 1. I'll just ease it up nice and slow. Bit of a rock here, we might as well just go over that just to see what happens. So it still does have a traction control mechanism happening. I can see it flickering, I can hear it. But that's gone up no problem whatsoever. very, very good. Now obviously with the diffs locked, your turning circle isn't the best, and I try to avoid feeding in full lock anyway, just so there's less tension. In fact, we'll turn the front diff lock off while we do the hill descent. Okay, feet off the pedals. It's gradually taking me down. That's actually really good. It's not letting the vehicle run away and then catching it. It's constantly controlling the vehicle and maintaining a speed too. So yeah, that's done really, really well. Okay, let's try the right hand side. I'm going to unlock the diff. So both diffs are unlocked. It's just in low range 4L. We'll see how we go, and then we'll come back through and lock the diffs if we need to, or I'll do it anyway just to see the difference. Listen out for any scrubbing. Yeah, so scrub the bottom then. Yeah, it's definitely scrubbing there. Spinning the wheels a little bit as well, but it's getting us there. It's not restricting power like some vehicles. You can hear the stability control or traction control working away, but sometimes I've found that they'll be so, like, to control the wheel spin or stop the wheel spin, they'll actually stop the vehicle from making progress, whereas that didn't. It was grabbing the wheels and slowing it down, slowing the wheel spin down, but still allowing progress, and I got up no problem in 4L without the diffs locked. Okay, let's try this side again with the diffs locked. The little symbols on the dashboard, I like to put it in neutral. I mean, most of the time you've got to put it in neutral anyway, just to free up the drivetrain so it can lock into its setting. And I'll make sure it's in manual mode. So yeah, way less wheel spin, less reliance on the traction control system, but it is scrubbing those side steps a bit. I think that track there has been chewed out more than previous tests that I've done. So it's been changed, but in a kind of bad way. Like it's more difficult now than previous tests I've done, and this still went up with no problem. I mean, it did scrape the side steps a little bit, and something underneath as well, so a bit more ground clearance would make this really good, and I think GWM should have done that with the XSR. Just give it something a little bit different, not less ground clearance certainly than some of the other variants. It should have the most, and then yeah, the approach angle is not excellent compared with some rivals, especially top spec rivals and ones that are focused on off-road performance. But either way, that's done very, very well. I'm going to go up another track. I've been up this other one on the right hand side with the 70 series, so I'll just see how this goes, because this is seeming like it's almost unstoppable. So it's just to the right of the tracks that I'm usually going up, but it is pretty serious. Like, it might not look that bad on camera, but the little dips and so on are not only steep, but they've got these rocks and all sorts of stuff, so it's really going to put a lot of pressure on the available traction. So I'll engage the diff locks again, and then see how we go. I'm a little bit worried about the body scraping out, particularly at the top, but along this section it should be okay. But we'll just see. I wouldn't take this on in a standard rival, like a, you know, Hilux SR5 or something like that, because I'd be worried that it would scrape the body. But this, with those different bumper bars, should be a bit better. Yeah, scrubbed out the front skid plate just then, and it's scrubbing out the side steps, getting over that last hump. All in all, that's done extremely well. I mean, that section there is much more aggressive than it looks on camera. That first, or this last dip here, is actually really steep, and I think a lot of the rivals would scrub out as well. So, conclusion, would I buy one? Well, I think I'd be weighing up the Triton, Navara and D-Max. Even if I had to step down to a mid-level variant and pay a little bit more, I would prefer one of those because of the resale value. The resale value of this is not going to be very good, judging by history. But you do get excellent off-road capability, partly thanks to that front differential lock, but even without that, it managed to climb up in 4H with no problem. The tyres obviously help out a fair bit, and that's even with a lower ground clearance than some rivals. So you've got to look at the specs on paper, but also some of those specs don't really translate to the real world. So that snorkel on the front there, the wading depth 700 millimeters, you can't really go over that. I mean, but you might be able to, but I don't know if insurance and all that will pay and all that. So there's all sorts of other things, warranty, that you might run into. So I think you've just got to be careful and think about what your priority is. If you want absolute low cost, as in the price that you're paying for the vehicle, then this is definitely a good bargain. You're getting plenty of features, although you do miss out on some things, as I said. You're getting other things that the others might not get, like that front differential lock, the standard AT tires, and some of the luxuries in here are pretty good, like heated seats and so on, but it misses out on dual zone climate control, which is a little bit weird, unless it's in the menu somewhere and I didn't see it. Apologies if so, but I don't think it does. But yeah, overall I can see why lots of people would buy these. Personally, I probably wouldn't go with the XSR. I'd go with the Vanta one and just enjoy a low price dual cab ute with plenty of features. It's going to be pretty good off-road as well. But if you were going to go off-road, I'd lift this up a little bit, because I think it is a little bit too low for this type of, you know, off-road focused model. But as I said, I would probably personally go with a Triton D-Max or a Navara first, even if I had to bump down to a different variant, mainly because of that resale value and smaller footprint that GWM has in Australia. So getting parts and so on might be more difficult than some of the rivals that have been here for a bit longer. All right, let's get stuck into the performance testing. Hopefully we don't get blown away.